It's the final full build Friday of anime, and we're going for a very classic sort of build. I watched the first and only season of this series to bring you a build from beyond the journey's end, Frieren.
Frieren the Slayer.
As always, I've got to do the song and dance and ask you to please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Alright, from there, we can now start talking about some build goals. Starting with the basics, Frieren is an ancient elf who has been alive for centuries and was a member of the party that defeated the Demon King. She possesses a staggering amount of mana that she uses to fuel her spells, though she usually keeps it carefully concealed. Her love of collecting spells and grimoires has led her into perilous situations, but also left her with a vast array of magic to call upon. This love of magic was inspired by the human mage that taught her, and also left Frieren with her favorite spell, a simple bit of mysticism to produce a field of flowers. Among her most commonly used spells are simple telekinesis, the firing of devastating beams of energy, and a shield that she commonly uses against other magic attacks. She flies and levitates with ease, and there are several instances where we've seen her shape and twist her spells in rather unconventional ways. Other spells we've seen her use include sealing or turning her enemies to stone, dispelling magic en masse, calling forth storms of lightning or pillars of fire, and even summoning constructs made of stone. This all makes her a master of magic who wields an incredible array of spells, but has a tendency to focus on the fundamentals of her practice. She holds a deep love for collecting grimoires and expanding her selection of spells to the point where she has too many for me to really name. With all of that established, let's get down to brass tacks. This might be one of the most classic builds I've done, but I think I've managed to bring some pizzazz to it, though we're starting with a simple elf ancestry. Given her age, it would make sense to go for the ancient elf heritage, but we will instead be using the seer heritage, because I actually don't think any of the multi-class dedications particularly fit her. We will demonstrate her age through the ancestral longevity feat, allowing Frieren to tap into forgotten memories to gain some proficiency in otherwise untrained skills. For her ability boost, elves gain an increased dexterity and intelligence, but have a flawed constitution. Rather than immediately writing that, her free boost will go towards her wisdom. Given her sometimes self-endangering habit of hunting for spells, Frieren is a fantastic fit for the spell seeker background. Through this, she becomes trained in Arcana and Library lore, and also receives the recognized spell Skill feat. She receives her initial ability boost here to Intelligence, and applies the free boost from it to her Wisdom once again. Sticking with something simple, Frieren uses the Wizard class. This feels an obvious choice to me, and provides her with a spellbook that she can fill with her spells, as well as the Arcane Spellcasting class feature. As a wizard, she has to choose both an Arcane School and an Arcane Thesis. For the former, I settled on the School of Unified Magical Theory, as Frieren seems to be a bit of jack of all trades when it comes to spells, without focusing on any one specific type. The other aspect of this is it will let her use Drain Bonded Item more regularly to unleash more spells, which should help represent her vast pool of mana. None of the theses really spoke to me, and I ultimately settled on the Staff Nexus, as again it might allow her to unleash even more spells, and she does have a rather nice staff. We do have plenty spells to talk about, but before we do, her Arcane School does grant her a class feat, which obviously has to be Spellbook Prodigy, so that she can pick up grimoires and learn the spells from them with greater ease and speed. Now, getting to her spells, the standout cantrips to me are Prestidigitation, Shield, and then the telekinetic cantrips, both hand and projectile. Given the accuracy and simplicity of her spells, I think Force Barrage is a great slot in for her first rank spell, and one that she'll be able to make plenty of use of. There's a lot of other spells you could pick from, and honestly it would totally be in character for Frieren to collect all of them. I doubt that's going to happen, but since that is the case, I'm not going to list out every single one of them that I should suggest, and instead just encourage you to collect copious castings in the course of your constitutional. As for skills, Frieren already has Arcana, so she'll become trained in Nature instead, and then additionally become trained in Crafting, Deception, Medicine, Occultism, Religion, and Survival. For her ability boost, she'll increase her Dexterity, Constitution to fix that penalty from her ancestry, Intelligence, and then her Wisdom. The last of these two will be important for the casting plans I have for her, while Dexterity will be useful for evading attacks from enemies in the first place. Keeping it classic with this character construction, Frieren takes the Magambian Attendant Dedication, or, as it's known on Path Builder, the Collegiate Attendant Dedication. Frieren is going to pick up a Primal Cantrip here, which will make her train in Primal spells that scale off of her Wisdom. She gains an affiliation with the Cascade Bearers, and finally becomes an expert in Arcana before we take a look at her skill feat. Assured Identification improves her ability at identifying magic items, which she does seem fairly adept at, though I suppose only when she actually has eyes on the subject. Her success rate with determining whether a chest contains magic or is a mimic isn't exactly great. Despite her typical patience, Frieren is a very shoot first and ask questions later sort of person when it comes to demons. As such, she uses the Incredible Initiative as her general feat, while her skill increase will go towards nature, and make her an expert of it. For her second rank spells, Dispel Magic is a great pickup, while something like Blazing Bolts could work with the rapidity of some of these spells that she slings. With her 4th level, Cantrip Expansion demonstrates the vast array of spells that she has collected, as well as the mana that she's accrued. We see her treating Fern when she's sick with herbs and fungi, which makes natural medicine a nice little feat to include for her. Just a little nod towards that concept. I'm not entirely sure she'll make much use of it, so if you do want another option, Charlatan might make it seem like she has far more spells than most casters would. 5th level comes with ability boost and an actual class feature. Frieren increases her Dexterity, Constitution, Intelligence, and Wisdom. As for the aforementioned class feature, it's Reflex Expertise, but at least it's something. She also becomes an expert in Religion, entirely because that's what you use to identify demons in Pathfinder. Her ancestry feat is Ageless Patience, given the way that she is willing to wait decades for simple things. Then, given that one of her main attack spells is a big ol' beam, Lightning Bolt is the go-to line spell available at 3rd rank. I'd also probably throw in a wall spell or two, given her use of defensive magic that we see throughout the series. For her 6th level, she gets Cascade Bearer's Flexibility, a fantastic fit for fair Frieren. This will allow her to access a spell-shaping feat from the Druid or Wizard class at her whim, allowing her to swiftly modify and alter her spells, with the only downside being that this effect is once per day. Speaking of Druid and Wizard, Cognitive Crossover will let her link her Arcana and Nature skills together, swapping to one when she fails with the other. Her 7th level starts off with the Expert Spellcaster class feature, which is always huge for casters at this point, as well as a skill increase that makes her a Master of Arcana. Fleet as her general feat makes her a bit faster, as that is always handy. We also crack into 4th rank spells, and the main one that I have to bring up here is Dispelling Globe, as this might actually be the best fit for the shield that she wields against magic, letting her counteract spells launch in her direction. Fly is another very solid one, given how much we see her floating around to set up her cinematic shots. We expand on Frieren's spells at 8th level with the Halcyon Speaker Dedication, allowing her to harness more primal magic. Flourishing Flora here is probably a good one, though I almost wish there actually was a flower making spell with no combat benefit to really suit her master's teaching. But I understand why Paizo hasn't published that, and I don't think they ever will. Naturally though, with her mastering Arcana, she'll take Quick Recognition as her skill feat, so that she can recognize spells as a free action once per round. For her 9th level, she achieves Magical Fortitude and becomes a master in her Nature skill. Expert Longevity builds out of her Ancestral Longevity, letting her both learn a new skill and improve one that she's out of practice with. For 5th rank spells, it isn't glamorous, but Telekinetic Hall feels up Frieren's alley and lets her help more people by lifting larger loads with little struggle. Looking at Frieren's 10th level, she boosts her Dexterity, Intelligence, Wisdom, and Charisma. Through this increase to Intelligence, she becomes trained in Acrobatics. We then go back to the Magambian for the Cascade Bearer's spellcasting, since this will allow her to tap into Divine and Occult spell lists on top of Primal. This touches on the tiny bit of Divine magic that she mentions knowing when she is tending to Fern, Root Magic will then serve as her skill feat, as I like the idea of it representing her still practicing some old forms of magic that have fallen out of use in the modern era. Caster class features are in general pretty simple, and the 11th level wizard sticks with that trend by granting Frieren perception and weapon expertise. Her skill increase goes to religion again so that she can become a master of it. For her general feat, Prescient Planner does represent some of her preparation, but I think you can also lean into it as her just collecting a random assortment of paraphernalia. Chain Lightning is a great get from her 6th rank spells, as is Flame Vortex, based on what we saw when she was fighting her own shadow. Through Halcyon spellcasting Initiate at 12th level, Frieren taps into more magic and can get a better fit for her big beam through Inner Radiance Torrent, which she can only get thanks to Cascade Bearer's spellcasting. She takes Quick Identification as her skill feat, fitting with her Assured Identification to swiftly and competently identify magic items that she comes across. Lucky level 13 means that Frieren gains defensive robes and weapon specialization, though I'm not sure she'll be using it all that much. With the skill increase here, she becomes an expert in library lore, purely based on her love of books and tomes. Universal Longevity stands in as her ancestry feat, to let her recall things on the fly as she seems fond of reminiscing. I'd likely grab Telekinetic Bombardment with her 7th rank spells, since that does just seem to be something that she uses with decent regularity. Similar to her last even level, Frieren expands on Halcyon Speaker with Halcyon Spellcasting Adept, which will grant her 5th rank spells. This is of note because it allows her to pick up a Lightning Storm, another of the salvo of serious spells seen in the scene against her Simulacrum. Alchemical Crafting as her skill feat goes back to her treatment of a sick Fern, when her Divine Magic wasn't quite enough to tend to her. We come into more ability boosts at 15th level, which will increase her Constitution, Intelligence, Wisdom, and Charisma. She becomes a Master Spellcaster and furthermore becomes a Legend of Arcana, quite fitting considering her story. Through the Ancestral Paragon General feat, she'll gain Otherworldly Magic, just so that she has yet another arcane cantrip to call upon. Finally, from her 8th rank spells, I think Summon Archmage could be funny as her managing to call upon Ciri despite their disagreements. Obviously, our cute casting queen could use some more spells. I mean, she only has 11 cantrips. So she takes Flexible Halcyon spell casting at 16th level. This increases her number of Halcyon spells at every rank except for her highest. Through her skill feat, she gains Unified Theory, which means that she won't have to worry about increasing her nature or religion anymore, and will let us pivot into some other skills for her. Before we do that at 17th level though, Frieren will gain Prodigious Will, and then follow that up with an increase to crafting to become an expert of it. Since we just picked up Otherworldly Magic just a bit ago, she can take Otherworldly Acumen as her 17th level Ancestry feat, which will grant her a 2nd rank arcane spell that she can swap out with a day of downtime. I like Falling Stars as one of her 9th rank spells, solely due to the association between this spell and the comet shower that she watched with her friends in the opening episode. We keep sticking with the Halcyon Speaker archetype at 18th level, and take Halcyon Spellcasting Sage, so that she has more spells to sling, and then she makes use of Unmistakable Lore as her skill feat, which will make her more versed in the knowledge she dispenses with her Library Lore skill. Further features for Frieren at 19th level grant her Archwizard Spellcraft, and makes her a legendary spellcaster. Keeping with a last level skill feat, she increases her Library Lore skill to be a master of it. She lands on Prescient Consumable as her final general feat, so that she always has a potion that only melts clothes on hand for somebody's special day. With Frieren's final array of ability boosts, she enhances her Strength, Constitution, Intelligence, and Charisma. She'll use this increased intelligence to become trained in Stealth, and then we have to figure out her capstone feat. Given her use of rather basic and fundamental spells, I ultimately settled on Spell Mastery as her final class feat, letting her permanently have these spells prepared and gaining an extra slot for each of them so that she has even more magic. With her crafting, she can grab Magical Crafting as her final skill feat, so that she can make some more mystical trinkets of her own when she otherwise runs out. That brings us to Frieren's playstyle, and this is honestly a little hard to nail down. Wizards, especially ones built the way that I have built Frieren here, are extremely adaptable. General advice I can give is diversifying your spells. make sure you have spells that target a variety of defenses, try to figure out the pressure points of your targets, and mix in some debuffing spells when you can. Though, in Frieren's case, that might be stuff more along the lines of Dispel Magic and defensive spells, rather than typical condition-afflicting castings. The main benefit of a free archetype game for this build is filling up all those class feats that Frieren spent on her archetypes on her wizard class feats instead. Spell shaping feats would suit her very well, especially with something like Quicken Casting or Conceal Spell, given the way that she is able to conceal her mana. Another solid one is Bond Conservation, since this mainly means she just gets more spells out of her slots. But with that all said, I think the spellbook is about overflowing, and our fearsome Frieren is fully finished. If you're still unsure, let's flip the pages of this legend and see what we've made. Frieren is a Seer Elf wizard from the School of Unified Magical Theory with a Staff Nexus as her arcane thesis. Given her great love of spells and tendency to seek out more, she uses the Spellseeker background and takes the Spellbook Prodigy class feat. Her longevity is expressed through her Ancestral Longevity, and the feats that she's expanded upon it with. Magic in Pathfinder doesn't really run off of mana, but we can represent her vast stores of magic with her Halcyon Speaker dedication and its spell casting flexibility, as well as the wizard's cantrip expansion. For her favorite spell, she can grow a field of flowers with Flourishing Flora or Entangling Flora, though part of me does still wish that there was a spell that didn't have a combat effect to really capture the flavor of it. She takes a whole host of telekinetic spells, going from Telekinetic Hand all the way to Telekinetic Bombardment, for one of her more regular uses of magic, and can use line effects such as Inner Radiance Torrent or Lightning Bolt for those devastating beams that she tends to launch. For her magic shield, there is the classic shield cantrip, but I think Dispelling Globe might fit the actual effects of it a bit better. Fly is an easy spell to pick up from her spell slots, while she can use Cascade Bear's flexibility to adjust and manipulate her spells on the fly. For other quick picks, Petrify will let her turn Qual to stone, Dispel Magic lets her do exactly what it says on the tin, Dispel Magic lets her do exactly what it says on the tin, she can pick up Lightning Storm or Flame Vortex, and even use Summon Construct or Summon Elemental to call forth Servitors of Stone. A magnificent mistress of mysticism, this mighty mage manages a massacre of magic missiles, maxes out mana, and mixes metamagic manipulations into her many, many manifestations. With that, we close the door on anime. I'll be going on a bit of a break in mid-June, but until then let me know what you think of this build and what other sorts of builds you'd like to see in a comment. If you like what you see here and want more, check out the Monster Monday blog, which is linked below along with the Twitter and Discord. Thanks for watching, and have a fantastic Friday.